Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of KFC SuperCoach Live TV. It's dinner at the second test at Adelaide Oval. The Aussies have won for 89. It's a perfect opportunity to talk about the upcoming BBL and, more importantly, the upcoming KFC SuperCoach season. This is the Phantom speaking. I'm joined once again by my colleague, Dan Batten. Dan, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, it's good to be here. We've got some actual experts as well.
We do.
Who we'll get to, and one of the best SuperCoach BBL newsbreakers in the business. So looking forward to getting stuck in with only 5 days away.
Indeed, 5 days to go. If you haven't already, pick your team for free now. Supercoach.com.au, 25k up for grabs for the overall winner. Plenty of weekly prizes and gifts from KFC to win too. You speak of those experts, Dan. We do. Damo, we had Azajul from Jock Reynolds on last week, his partner in crime. Damo from Jock Reynolds, welcome. How are you feeling 5 days out?
Getting a bit nervous. So it took a while to settle on the team, but I think I'm there now. I think I've settled on my team and just waiting for it to get started now.
Indeed, we're good to talk to you in a little bit about your final team, who you first picked, and your expert advice. But Ben, the man who is behind the Honeyball pages for BBL and AFL, welcome to KFC SuperCoach Live TV.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Busy time for me with all the teams kind of getting together this week, and then the first game's coming up. So good to get on and chat and try to give you some news.
Indeed, we'll get to some new player signings on the BBL. We've had a few new players go into the game as of Thursday, and a few new ones to come in also. But let's start. Corey's posted a question. If you do have a question out there, or you want to know anything, you want some advice on your KFC SuperCoach BBL team, hit us up in the comments now. We'll try to get to them before the end of the show. But Corey's got a question about Michael Neser. Obviously, he's playing in the test side. He's playing in the second test against the West Indies. Him and Scott Boland have replaced Josh Hazelwood and Pat Cummings. And Dan and I know, definitely wanted to pick Michael Neser from the Brisbane Heat, given his outstanding summer and Shield season so far. What do we think? Is he going to be back? What does this mean to Michael Neser in SuperCoach BBL?
Well, I mean, their first game, the Heat, is on the Thursday, and you think, obviously, this test, it could go for 3 days. Who knows with the way the Aussies have started burst out of the blocks. But you'd say that he'd probably be unlikely to play that first game, just purely as out of guess. And obviously, they had the bye in round 2, but you'd think that he'd be one of the top targets for round 3 when they have their double when that comes around. But he might be still in the test side. Who knows? I mean, obviously, Hazelwood was out with a bit of a general soreness, which we know all too much about in KFC SuperCoach. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see just how long Neser does stay in the side, whether it's just a one test then out, like last year, he played in the corresponding test in last summer. But it's at a juicy price at $107,000. But at this stage, I probably wouldn't risk it. I think I'm going to look for maybe a bit of a cheaper option, potentially a Sam Heazlett up the order, or if I look at a bowler, maybe a Mitch Swepson instead of Neser, because, yeah, you don't want to be left in the lurch because obviously he's got the round 2 bye as well.
Yeah, and obviously a little bit different this summer as well, his involvement in that test squad last year, the bubble with all the COVID issues last summer, he wasn't available. This could be a bit different if he is released. So he could play this week in Adelaide and then still be available for BBL. We'll wait and see. But Ben, let's go to you. What else do we need to know? Some interesting names join the KFC SuperCoach BBL game today even.
Yeah, well, I think we had a few prices drop, which is always exciting when it comes to SuperCoach. Jimmy Neesham was one at a 140k DPP pick. Peter Hanscom, I know, has got a lot of people excited, coming in at 62k as a wicket keeper. We're all scrambling to find the right 3 wicket keepers, and he looks like someone who might play for them early in the season. So potentially looms as a popular pick, even though I think a lot of people have been burnt by him in the past. But it just kind of makes sense with teams trying to juggle that round 1 double with the round 2 Scorchers double, carrying a Scorchers player through the round 1 bye. So I feel like he's going to draw a bit of attention and be someone who people are pretty keen on.
one for you as well from Patrick here. Asked a question from over there in WA. Phil Salt won't be part of the Scorchers lineup. I think they did mention something about a replacement. Any news about what we can expect from over there?
Yeah, no news yet. And I feel like Phil Salt pulled out a week ago, so it's pretty hard work for them to kind of organise an international replacement at such short notice. They got Faf du Plessis pretty quickly when they cancelled Laurie Evans' contract. So I think they're still working away at it. The Scorchers' first game isn't till Saturday week, so they've got a bit of a buffer. Obviously got the round one bye. So they've got a bit of time to find someone. I know they had a practice game this morning. Primarily the local guys played in that. I haven't got a scorecard just yet to give you any insight, but if there isn't an import buy at round one, I feel like someone like Nick Hobson comes into the side. Cam Bancroft as well, probably up there in the top order.
And just on the Scorchers, we'll go around the table here. Damon Jackman, very well known in KFC SuperCoach circles, wants to know what we're doing with the Scorchers. As you mentioned, they do have a round one bye, but we do have the trade boost in KFC SuperCoach BBL this year, but still 4 moves might not be enough to stack your team with the double game round in the second week. Start with you, Ben. What are you thinking with the Scorchers for your first round? How many are you going to carry through?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because you almost need to see how the first game loops go before you lock in any non-playing players. And I dare say people will be looping guys like Webster or cutting guys who were playing in the first game. So it's a tricky one, but the ones I really like are Inglis, who's got, I think he's about 89K off the top of my head. Makes a lot of sense if you want to have a NPP wicketkeeper. And then AJ Ty's one I really like, just because his role's pretty locked in. There's a bit of uncertainty about a few of the Scorchers. Bowlers, I know Jai Richardson's got an injury. He was nursing one in the last few rounds of the Shield, so there's a bit of a question mark around him. And then the batting lineup, given the guys who are out, they're in a bit of flux, so there's no guarantees about roles there. So the ones I really like are Inglis and Ty.
Yep. No, and Damo, what are you thinking with your? You have sent me your team. I have seen your final lineup. We'll release that over the next few days. heraldsun.com to do, dailytelegraph.com doing all the News Corp mastheads. But give the viewers out there a little bit of insight to what you're thinking on the bench with the Scorchers. Obviously, someone Dan mentioned before, Michael Neester, Lance Morris obviously into the squad, not playing in Adelaide. He could also be released. He's a 62K bowler in KFC SuperCoach BBL. What Scorchers do you have on your bench to start with?
Well, I'm holding both of the guys that Ben mentioned there. Inglis and Ty seem to be no-brainers to hold, especially with Ty's form in the Sheffield Shield and all the other formats across the summer, but across the last few months, I should say. But I really like Aaron Hardy. He was one who could step in Mitch Marsh's absence as an all-rounder. He'll probably bowl 4 overs and bat pretty high up the order with Marsh now dealing with that ankle injury.
Yeah, very big. Obviously, Sean, Mitch Marsh injury is pretty big, or the Marshes injuries is big for KFC SuperCoach BBL. Dan, a question here from Shauno. We've just touched on it about using our bench loopholes to our advantage in KFC SuperCoach BBL. Obviously, some people across it, but it is a little bit more complex to what we do in the AFL world. How are you going to go about that? And a little bit of advice for Sean, I guess, who's just starting out maybe, and how to make the most of the points that are on offer.
Well, our colleague at News Corp, Tim Mitchell, has about 16 different loops set up for the first round. So it'll be interesting.
He is listening. Tim, give us a comment. Let us know what you think of the video. We know you're listening.
But no, he's much smarter than me when it comes to that. But I'm setting up a couple myself. But you've got to be a little bit careful with how you do it, because you look at the Stars. So it's the Stars and the Thunder. They look like the logical options to loophole. They are in the first game on Tuesday night. But then the Stars and the Thunder play their second games on the Friday. So they're back to back on the Friday. So you just got to be a little bit careful that at least with the first round, you've got the Scorchers who aren't playing at all. So you can, and because there, of course, is unlimited trades until the end of round one, but you just got to make sure that you aren't leaving yourself in the lurch and you've got too many players locked out and you can't make any have that sort of flexibility. So, which may be a little bit tricky when a lot of players are going to be running with maybe 7 or 8 Stars and Thunder players. But I'm going to be looking to loophole Joe Clark. And he's a little bit expensive, 153K, but only scored 10 runs less than Philippe in last year's BBL and finished with an absolute bang. Will be up the top of the order, plays twice in the opening round. But if he goes bust first round, I'll seriously consider trading maybe Inglis or swapping out someone in my wicket-keeping ranks, maybe even getting a Philippe on field to replace him. But I'd probably have to be like a Duck or something because Clark can still go bang in that second game. So another guy as well, maybe even a Riley Rousseau, who is very hit and miss at the Thunder signing in his South Africa. Since returning to the South African side, he scored 2 tons. And I think in his other 3 or 4 innings, he scored about 10. So, he'd be one to look at to loophole. Also, Matt Gilkes as well. He doesn't always score so high, and because he's only about 90K and plays twice in round 1 and round 2, you can probably afford to stash him on your bench, see how he goes in that first game, and if he goes bang, then you're looking to put a scorcher or a non-playing player on the field to take his score.
Yeah, very good advice there, Damo. Like I said, I've seen your team. How many strikers, Thunder and Star players? We know we've mentioned them before. You can look at all the advice online. A big double game round coming up in the first round for 3 sides. Are you going all in on that? And we've discussed as well, it's going to make a lot of first round teams pretty similar too, given those 3 teams. But are you looking to do anything different with your starting side? Or are you going all in on the double game round?
I've pretty much gone all in on the double game week players. I've got a couple of players from the teams that aren't playing twice. Like, I really like the look of what Matthew Wade has been doing, and I know it's only been training runs, but he looks really good batting in the nets and doing his run throughs, especially in that video that Hobart Hurricanes released the other day. And at 120K, he's one that you could probably look towards if Joe Clark doesn't pay off as well.
Yeah, and another one I'm looking at, Shadab Khan playing for the Hurricanes. Ben, I think the Hurricanes spoke about him a little bit in their plans for what he's going to do. We know he's going to bowl. Is he going to feature? Where is he going to feature in that batting line? Obviously stacked in that middle order and at the top. We obviously want him in KFC SuperCoach BBL to be featuring with the bat. Do we think we're going to see that this summer?
Yeah, it's a pertinent question. And I think when Jimmy Neesham got signed by the Canes the other day, everyone started freaking out because I think people were thinking Shadab Khan will bat 5 or 6 like he did at the T20 World Cup, but Neesham's role in pretty much all formats is at 5. So he kind of takes that, moving Shadab further down the order. And then you've got Tim David, who's one of the best finishers in world cricket. So it feels like Shadab slides a few down to 7, potentially even 8. When you look at their lineup, they've got another Pakistani, Asif Ali, who is literally his job is a finisher. He just comes in the last few overs and just tonks them. So I think a lot of people are a bit nervous about Shadab now, particularly with a non-double to start the season. And I think the Canes have got a bye around round 5. So going for any Canes from round 1 is pretty risky. And I feel like Shadab sliding down the batting order is probably a bit of a turn-off. You might want to just see how he goes round 1 rather than jumping on.
Dan, I think you were pretty big on him earlier on in the campaign. Are you still on him?
Yeah, he's still on my side at the moment, but he's one of those guys that could slide out if a guy like Gilkes comes off in the first game. But I think even we saw what Shadab Khan did with the ball and his form in the Asia Cup before that, and even in the previous T20 World Cup as well. I mean, he's just such a good bowler. I'd almost pick him just as a bowler. And we've seen him even for Pakistan elevated to number 3 or 4 if they needed quick runs. Who knows if we saw Darcy Short was struggling to score over a run of ball at times last year. If they're struggling to get out of first gear at the start of the innings, they might elevate him to number 3 and leave, the likes of a Tim David and Neesham to do their bidding at the end of the innings. So I think I'm still going to start him at this stage. I mean, that is certainly a little bit concerning, the fact that he could drift down the order, but I think he can do enough with the ball. Go it under, similar to Rashid Khan, his namesake, go it under 6 and over. He went at 6.3 economy in the World Cup. And I think any runs with the bat really would just be a bonus.
Indeed. Now, one for anyone here. Marcus Stoinis, 83K bat bowl, one of the biggest bargains of the summer, it appears. But I saw at Honeyball BBL on Twitter yesterday, I think keeps me up to date with things. Adam Zampa, the captain, he said he's opening the batting for us a lot. Not too sure what we're looking to do with someone like him this campaign. Should we be concerned about that? What do we expect from Stoinis? Is there any reason not to pick him, to fade him against the popular move, or what do we think?
I'll jump in. He's such good value that it would be, it's too much to not pick him, but it might turn you off a VC potentially. It is a bit of a flag though, and it was a few games last season where he didn't open. They've got a few options. Joe Clark will open. Probably someone like a Hilton Cartwright could open, meaning Stoinis shuffles down the order. And obviously they've got to fill Maxi's void. So that probably creates that temptation for the Stars to do that rather than relying on, Nick Larkin or Joe Burns or Bo Webster maybe, who, with all due respect, didn't have great seasons last campaign. So, if you lose your openers, you're suddenly really in a bit of strife. So that's probably the logic behind that. And we've seen Stoinis bat 4 or 5 for Australia. He does it all the time in the IPL because he's got the muscle, the brute strength to come in and just hit sixes. He doesn't need a power play to do that. So there's some logic behind it. Zampa's comments, they're not one way or the other, but they're just a bit of a flag. So the good news is the Stars play first, so we should know where he's going to bat. They tend to announce their order. Sometimes they're a bit cagey with that. So I would say it's not enough to turn you off, but just something I'd keep in mind if you're thinking about putting the VC on him.
Damo, speaking of Adam Zampa, you like a bit of his 103K price tag this summer?
Yeah, he's a must-have at his price, and he's been taking wickets for fun across all the formats recently. So he's in really good form coming into this campaign, and it's no surprise that he's been given the captaincy, given his form and the way that he plays and the way he leads the Stars team.
Dan, any interest, Adam Zampa? What are you thinking there? I've seen your team as well, a few Stars names. What do you think?
Yeah, he's one of those guys. I'm looking at someone who's about 105K, and I've already got 3 stars in Bolt, Stoinis, and Joe Clark. So probably don't want to go any more than that, even though you probably can go with 4 if you're really liking them in that first round. Of course, they're playing the Thunder and Hurricanes. I mean, I'm expecting the Thunder to be pretty solid this season, but they're playing at Manuka Oval first up, which isn't the best bowling deck. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, Zampa obviously is world class on the T20 stage, and I think if he didn't have that bye first up, he'd be in my thinking. But I just can't go past Trent Bolt. What he was able to do at the World Cup, couple of big wicket hauls, and I think his ceiling is absolutely massive. And let's be honest, he's a couple of rungs above most in the BBL. So I think if you're choosing between those options, you think Stoinis is an absolute must. Then I'm probably going to pay out for Bolt instead of settling for Zampa.
Yep, fair call. Ben, a former star, Peter Hanscom, will play for the Renegades in BBL 12. A good price. A lot of talk around him in the KFC SuperCoach community at the moment. You have a piece of that. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I think the only real, with all due respect, the only attraction is the price point. His last few seasons at the Hurricanes weren't great. It looks like his role isn't going to be an attractive one, a middle order bat, which tends to never be overly conducive to big SuperCoach scores. There's some talk he might be the wicket keeper. It'll be potentially Sam Harper or Hanscom, and I do like wicket keepers. You get the additional 10, 20 fielding points. But I think coaches are interested simply because they need that extra cheap wicket keeper to use as a non-playing player in the case of round 2 when Inglis comes in, and I feel like we're all looping either Jilks or Clark in the first game. So I think that's the logic behind it. And if he does play, maybe you can bench him anyway and hope he makes a bit of coin. So I see the attraction. He's not someone I'm overly keen on, but it might just be the best of the bad lot.
Yeah, interesting there. I think it'll be one to watch For sure. When we look at the Thunder players, obviously they have 2 doubles in a row, round 1 and round 2. Which Thunder guys are you going to be jumping on, Damo, and how many do you have in your current setup?
I've got 3 at the moment. I've got Daniel Sams. I know he's currently nursing an injury, but sounds like he's going to be all right for the season opener. Jason Sanger, the brand new captain, he's probably going to put himself at the top of the order and bowl a couple of overs if he doesn't do very well with the bat. And then Alex Hales, after his T20 World Cup form, you could almost argue that he's underpriced at 130k. So those are the 3 I'm really looking at. I haven't really gone for any of their bowlers apart from Daniel Sams. He's obviously a dual position in SuperCoach, being able to be selected as a batsman as well. But yeah, I haven't really gone for any of their specialist bowlers. Just looking at their batsmen, I think first game up at Monaco, that's probably the way to go, especially considering you can add some more going into round 2, considering they've got the double game week again.
I might be going a bit overboard, Damo. I've got 5 at the moment, including Gilks on the bench. So Hales, as you said, I think he's massively underpriced. Daniel Sams, he's one who you'd be stressed not owning, I think, for those first 2 rounds. And I've brought in Fazal Haq Faruqi as well. I'm not 100% sure he starts in round 1, but I think he's one that took some wickets at the T20 World Cup, opening up for Afghanistan, and has a lethal Yorker, and played it in the IPL this year as well. 105k. He's a little bit of a smoky for me, a little bit of a late bolter into my team, but he could come out late, especially if he's not named in that first game. All right, we'll jump into. Oh, there we is that.
I'm back. Yes, sorry.
He's back.
I'm back. Sorry, dropped out there. I'm not sure what happened, but Benny. Speaking of cheapies, you can also look. Tim Mitchell, our friend, who has still not piped up in the chat. We know he is watching, but he put together our cheapie Bible, which you can see across all News Corp mastheads. A free ID, a free story about all the guys under 100k to consider for BBL 12, the backbone of any good KFC SuperCoach team in any format. But Benny, you got a few you like as well.
Yeah, well, you're probably right on the mark there. The 100k mark is what I'm thinking, and Dan kind of stole my thunder with Faruqi, who I really like. I think his role's great. Like, he'll bowl power play and death overs, which is just the dream overs for a bowler. You can usually get a few wickets in those overs. But the flag is right. They've only got you can only play 3 imports at once. They'll likely play Hales and Rousseau, and then it becomes a question of if they play Faruqi or Usman Khadir, and that may come down to conditions, and that's a bit scary on a double. There's no guarantees. So that's probably the flag on him, but I think they'll back him in just because he's a gun and there's a role there for him. The cheapies I did want to flag, 105k, Luke Wood from the Stars. Now, obviously, he got the double first up, so that's attractive, but he's got DPP status, which is very, very generous. Knowing my English cricket, he's not a batsman. So he's someone you can put in your bats and pick another bowler who, we know bowlers tend to score better than bats. And he's a big left-arm swing bowler, so I feel like he's going to bowl up front. So in the power play, like I said before, should be some wickets fall there. And then it might be him, Bolt, or Couch bowling the death overs. Again, really conducive role to getting a few wickets. So I like him. And then a left field one I wanted to throw at you. And he's not on a double, but it's the West Indian Akil Hussain from the Renegades.
Like it.
Yeah, unknown to BBL. He's a spinner, first time in the league, but he's off in great form. We just played in the Abu Dhabi T10 League, was bowler of the tournament. He won't be a huge wicket taker. He might get 1 or 2 per game, but he is the most economical bowler, so he should get your 15, 20, 25 bonus points through that. I feel like at 105k, it's a very, very generous price, and if you can stash him early for their round 5 double, you might just get ahead of the pack, and he might be a nice pod to go for.
Some names to jot down there. Definitely KFC SuperCoaches. Benny, where can everyone stay up to date with this news and with this gold you're producing over at Honeyball?
Yeah, so we're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Honeyball BBL. Just put out the Honeyball magazine, which covers everything SuperCoach related. Got interviews with experts. Last year's winner, Andrew Langley, who I've got to say, the way he thinks about SuperCoach blew my mind. So that's definitely worth a read. And got analysis of T20 franchise leagues around the world with all the BBL players, all their SuperCoach scores in that. So it's a bit of a Bible of information. I would highly recommend you jump on that. So yeah, Honeyball BBL, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram.
Very good. Get on there and give them a follow now, and don't miss out on anything ahead of the first ball on Tuesday. Damo, Dan, we are excited. We're almost there. We'll be back for another episode of KFC SuperCoach TV ahead of the first game next week. We'll get back to the test now, but again, as I said before, you can see Damo and Dan's team over the next few days across all News Corp mastheads, all the latest cheapy information. We'll also have a consensus team as well. We're going to put all our teams together. And for those out there who are coming late to KFC SuperCoach BBL, would be a good starting point for your first team. So plenty of information there. Get on there, pick your team. It's free and easy to do. Supercoach.com.au, and we'll see you next week here again on KFC SuperCoach Live TV.